Started. Okay, everyone, thanks for joining me here on Teslanomics Live. I'm your host, Ben Sullins. Today is October 9th, 2017, and what we're going to be talking about today, primarily, the first story has to do with the Model 3 bottlenecks. I'm going to hide the chat here so it's a little less distracting. If you're new to the program, thanks for joining me. Every Monday, I kind of just run down the biggest Tesla news from the previous week. What you're seeing maybe that looks a little different here is a system called Crowdcast, where people that are on my email list get invited, or if you follow me on Twitter and those things, and then you can actually ask questions, vote on questions, share in the discussion. It's just much more interactive than YouTube or Facebook or any of the other ones. So that's what you're seeing. And what I do, so also, if you don't want to watch the whole intro and then all these other bits, you just want to jump right to the story that is of interest to you, check the pinned comment down below. It won't be there until after this posts, but I go back and I put time codes next to each one so you guys can just jump straight to whatever segment you want. So these typically run about an hour, much longer than my normal 5 to 7 minute videos, which are on Wednesdays and Fridays. So, you know, I want to make it digestible for you in whatever way, you know, you guys want to consume it. So there's that. Okay, so the first story, the biggest news item from the past week has to be the delay of the semi-truck unveiling to November 16th. And I don't say it just because of the semi-truck unveiling. That's like a small thing. The bigger story behind it is that they need to fix Model 3 bottlenecks and increase battery production for Puerto Rico. Now, with that, there is a lot going on. So Elon tweeted this out, and then there's a whole host of replies, and I'll get into a lot of the detail here. But basically, he's pushing it back from, it was going to originally be October 26th. Now it's November 16th. The truck apparently is done. Everything is good. But then Elon, as you can kind of see in the replies, are saying, oh, we're deep in production hell right now. And that happened because, or that comes about after a slew of stories about Tesla reportedly, let me see if I can switch properly, a slew of stories reportedly saying that parts of the Model 3 were being made by hand. And so this was a big thing in terms of the markets and how they're looking at Tesla, because they can't believe it, right? I mean, we're mid, or approaching mid-October, and they were supposed to deliver 1,500 Model 3s in Q3, and they delivered 220. We'll dig into those details here in a minute. So that was a big problem. That was a big area that that they're trying to address. And so they're pushing off kind of all these other things that they've been working on to focus on this. So with that in mind, after some of this negative press that was coming about, which, by the way, happens in any hype cycle. Any hype cycle, you have this like inflated expectations and then peak of delusionment, and then as reality starts to set in, you see a trough of negative press. And so we're starting to see some of that as we were kind of moving past the crest of the peak of hype here for the Model 3. And so this is to be expected, but I don't think it's really that big a deal, especially not when you think about where they're going to be in just a few months. So of course the markets are always short-sighted, and that's just kind of how it is. Now, seemingly in response to this, Elon tweeted a video here, and I'll play it for you. And I was pretty confused. This is the Model 3 body line slowed down to 1/10 speed. Now, to be clear, the video is not slowed down. It is the actual line itself. So when I first watched it, I was confused by that because it appeared to be in regular time, and then also there was the noise in the background, which didn't distort or anything like that. So this was apparently his response to the Model 3 being built by hands, because parts of it definitely are, and I can say that from people I know that have given me information about the Model 3, specifically around certain parts of it, that yeah, some parts are definitely done by hand. So but it's not to say that that not every car is completely built by robots. It's kind of a robot-human partnership. So here's a video kind of highlighting that, and I believe he was doing this specifically to kind of rebuke some of the stories out there. And I apologize if I pause. I have a bit of a sore throat, so I'm taking sips of tea in between here. So that's one thing, right? They need to work on this. They delivered 220 in Q3, which is well short of their goal of 1,500. And we'll get into kind of what that means for production and all that here in a minute. Next, they're also focusing on delivering Puerto Rico power walls and solar and everything to Puerto Rico. And so, yeah, that's awesome. I think all of us are pretty understanding when it comes to them wanting to focus on that. The Verge had a good article here that talked about it, and you can kind of see Elon and some other folks going into it. Now, this is really exciting because, of course, you know, what happened in Puerto Rico is terrible, but there are a few times in a city, or in this case an island's history, where they can essentially choose to be completely green when they rebuild. And there's even a city here in the United States, I forget where it is, maybe Oklahoma or something, that was completely wiped out by a tornado. It was a small town, and when they rebuilt, they went 100% renewable energy, so wind and solar, and I think that's all they had. I don't think they had thermal or anything. But here you have essentially Elon and the governor, I believe this is the governor of Puerto Rico, talking about how could we do better, right? So since we have this opportunity, and it sucks and it maybe feels weird to look at it that way, but since there is an opportunity here to rebuild in a better way, what are we doing? And so Elon and the governor of Puerto Rico are working on that. Super great stuff. I love that, you know, as hard as in kind of hardline as maybe some of the work and production hell is, this company really does have that altruistic intent, and you see it over and over again. And here's just yet another example. Zach and Jesse from Now You Know also did a video on this. They went into far more detail than I am here, and so I put that link in the description of the YouTube video. Excuse me, which we'll post here in a minute, and you can go check that out. It's called In-Depth, I think, Puerto Rico, or if you guys are subscribed to them, maybe you already saw that. So that has to be the biggest story of what's going on, and there's more to unpack about this. But before we get into those bits, I wanted to talk about a couple other things. With that, you know, Tesla said that they're going to be covering the expenses, and I pulled up Kim's Twitter here. So here's kind of the thing, right? So this goes back to, hey, we had this event planned on October 26th. We delayed it. We understand that that may cause some non-refundable or non-changeable travel expenses, as I believe maybe Kim and her husband had, and so you know they're gonna take care of those. Now, my reply to that, of course, is, well, what about babysitters and all the other stuff that it takes to organize a trip like this for a family? And yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But this is just yet again Tesla kind of doing the right thing, and I love to highlight that when any company really does it. But on here on Teslanomics, of course, we're looking at Tesla specifically. Okay, so next we have, and this is kind of today and awesome, if you're familiar with the DeFranco show, I love how he does that. We have the referral code update, and we are trucking along. I am so grateful and so excited that 43 people have used our referral code in this segment of the program alone, or in this section of the program, the referral program, that is, because they used to have quarterly ones, and then they kind of opened this one up for the remainder of the year. And so if you're unfamiliar, what it is you can use our referral code, and you can get it right here at teslanomics.co/TD. And what you'll get is $1,000 off plus free supercharging from your for your Model X or Model S. I do get a lot of people emailing me saying, hey, what about the Model 3? Yeah, sorry, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So there you go. So there you can get $1,000 off plus free supercharging, but it expires on October 31st. So I've probably been emailing you, everybody that's signed up for this, and letting you know, because I definitely don't want you guys to miss out on that. I believe the free supercharging will continue. So there's that. Now there's also the solar 5-year extended warranty if you go with Tesla for solar. A couple people have emailed me about this. I have another video. You know what? I'll add it to the description there. later. But it is pretty amazing, and I think Tesla does a decent job. Here in San Diego, I've heard bad things about their quality of their work, and I don't know if that's just from my friends in the solar industry, but there definitely does seem to be some concerns there. So I actually have a video about how I went about getting solar. I did not use Tesla because of those stated reasons, but I'll recommend you, and I'll put in the link in the description below. If you do go with Tesla, however, you can use our same code, and then you can get a 5-year extended warranty. So yeah, kudos to you. I think that's pretty sweet. Okay. Next up, we have TeslaCon, and if you are new here, this is an online gathering of Tesla in the EV community. Going to be in early December. I have a video explaining it. I won't go into much detail about it because what we have now is a bit of new information. We have Saul Lopez from Spain, who also has an amazing channel as a featured speaker. So we're going back and forth on whether or not we can do an English version and a Spanish version, or what we're going to do. But if you guys are from Spain or from Europe, or if you just speak Spanish in general and have not heard of him, definitely go check him out. I have his info at TeslaCon.online, as well as you can find him here on YouTube. And he does a really great job breaking it down. And I always love hearing the stories from Europe just because of how different it is and everything like that. So we're adding to the lineup every single day. Go to TeslaCon.online and sign up right here for our email updates, and then you'll also be the first to know when things like t-shirts go on sale, when tickets go on sale. We're really closing in on a date and a keynote speaker. I hope to have that wrapped up this week, and yeah, go check it out. I think this is going to be super fun. So one caveat too is that because this is online, you can literally join from anywhere in the world. It's not like a regular conference where you have to travel there. So you won't be really wanted to use this avenue because it makes the most sense for kind of our global community of Tesla and EV fans, as well as for our speakers, right? Saul will be joining us from, I think he lives in Paris right now. And then some of the other guys, Zach and Jesse and Trevor Page from Model 3 Owners Club, they live in different parts of the country. So yeah, so go check it out, TeslaCon.online, and learn more. Now, the next thing to do is to unpack more of those details. And so let me check. I think I had one more thing quickly. Evie Match, which is a cool company that pairs people that are owners with. If you have at your house a charger and there's someone else that needs to use a charger, kind of like an Airbnb, they now have an app. And so that is, and I had it on my phone just a second ago. But anyways, if you go to evmatch.com, you can check that out. This is especially helpful for people, or I think it'll be especially helpful for people that don't have something at their house, and they don't have the ability to install something. So say you live in an apartment and you got an EV, or you're waiting on your Model 3, you can use Evie Match to find places to charge near your work, near your home, whatever. I just searched for San Diego. You can see that it's growing. There aren't a ton, but it is out there. So there's that. Definitely getting better and better, and I really wish these guys the best. They're not an official sponsor or anything, so this is literally just me mentioning them because I think I wish them success and I want people to use them. So check it out, evmatch.com, if you need to charge sometime. Okay. Now, the implications of what we talked about earlier, the implications of the Model 3 forecast, and what I have here is my prediction model that I've used in the past, and there's some formulas here, so you kind of, the way it works, and I won't get into too nitty-gritty details, is you kind of have, your time 1 and your time 2, and I basically looked at, using as of 10/1, 220, and then I'm actually putting them now at about 3,000. I don't think they're going to hit the 5,000 per week by the end of the year. And so, breaking these two things down, looking at what percentage that would be, that gives me this forecast model. And the forecast model here, I then aggregate up. So, I kind of have low and high predictions, kind of a lower band and an upper band. And then I take that data and then I parsed it into a forecast to answer a couple questions, which also relate to what someone asked just a second ago in why can't it go over there? In the Crowdcast, and that was about Elon saying that the design studio for the Model 3 will go live in probably 6 to 8 weeks. And then there's this whole discussion about, well, 6 to 8 weeks means nobody's going to get the Model 3s in late October for first customer deliveries. It'll likely be December for first customer deliveries. Now, that doesn't mean that the production of the Model 3 is going to be exactly stifled, because there are probably a lot more employees that are still waiting on theirs. But the point being is that, like, what's that mean for Tesla here? And so what I have is I took that data and I combined it with some of the other data. Let me turn off the AC as it gets a little warm in here, to figure out two things. I want to know how far along is Tesla on their way to that 200K mark, which would, and if you're unfamiliar with the way the tax credit in the United States works, which a lot of people are banking on here, once they hit their 200,000th car delivered of any kind of EV that they've ever made, and I think it's post 2009, so basically any car they've ever delivered, once they hit 200,000 cars in the U.S., it starts to phase out. And so I wanted to see, okay, using this new data, updating my delivery model for the Model 3, where is it going? So before I show that part, let's look at just kind of the Model 3 here and what that gives us. So using that model I showed you there, which is using that exponential S-curve type growth, that's what that model is. And then I took that, I plotted it here, and then I did a running total. I have Tesla at about 14,000 Model 3s by the end of December, and then it starts to really just ramp up, right? So that, you know, you can see that they're delivering a lot of Model 3s. Going into September of 2018, looking at about 226,000 Model 3s. Now that would be a tremendous year for 2018 for Tesla, and it also would mean that they are not going to hit, really no chance of them hitting this 200,000 mark in Q4 of this year, which was a big scare for a lot of people. So if you take a look, taking Model S and X sales, which we do know, projecting those out, kind of using historical averages, then adding in the Model 3 with the delivery ramp and that S-curve exponential growth, this is where this is what our result is, right? So it looks like we're getting really close. So as of today, and I'm using numbers from InsideEVs.com, which are the most accurate ones because Tesla doesn't report these by region, and those guys do a ton of research to try to get there. As of today, as of now, using their data, I'm showing 143,000 Teslas in the U.S. alone. So then from there, after November, essentially, you can see the effect of the Model 3. It just really ramps up in December, putting them at 171 by the end of December, and then 188,000 by the end of January. And then they cross that 200,000 mark in, sometime early February or mid-February. So that's kind of where I'm projecting them now. I think that would be still pretty bad because you kind of want to time it so, you hit this 200,000 mark and the first day of the new quarter, because the phase out kind of works, based on when you hit that mark. So mid-February would be pretty bad, but I don't see how they could kind of delay those for another month and a half. So we'll see. So I guess people had asked me this on Twitter, hey, what about this model? My model previously had predicted actually late Q4, but then based on Elon and what he had said, I looked at some things and said, well, it's probably going to be January of next year, probably the very first day of January of 2018, so they could maximize it. Well, so that's essentially Q1. Now looking at this, it's still Q1 of next year. It's just a little bit later. So that's kind of scary. And so there's some I guess my projections based on the updated information we have. And I think I'll do those on this show versus going into a video each time, because they change just so frequently. So yeah, there you have it. Now, that means that, yeah, next year could be an absolute monster year for Tesla if they can really get that Model 3 going. And here's kind of the breakdown of the actual versus the estimate of just the overall sales for Tesla and where they're at. So all the links to this will all be in the description here. I haven't actually posted this. This is online, but I haven't posted the links to it or anything there yet. So there you have it. That is kind of, I guess I'm kind of long on that, but I'm kind of nervous. So I'd love to know what you guys think. Next, we have some interesting news coming out of Electrek that has Tesla installing more solar roof systems. And I guess this is an image of one. It kind of looks like it, right? And Tesla has some comments here that the first solar roof installations have been completed recently at the homes of our employees, who we chose to be our first customers to help perfect all aspects of solar roof customer experience, just like you do with every other model car and everything else you make. By pairing either the solar roof or our existing retrofit solar panels with the Powerwall, our customers can enjoy sustainable energy independence. Yay! So it sounds like, I don't know if that's PR or marketing, but there's the photo that they captured right there. Looks legit. Looks like they're removing things, and then it was removed later. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But then Tesla had an update to it saying that they are installing more systems, but the installations are still only for company employees, much like Model 3 deliveries. A ramp up is expected later this year. I like this. I'm long on this. I think it's a good good move. I don't think I'll get it because I just bought solar panels recently, but I'm excited to see this become a thing. And I'm excited to really see the cost, because I've done a couple videos on this, and it's kind of crazy. You know, I wanted to build a scraper actually that would go figure out the cost of like every house in America, but I didn't have time. And with it though, when I looked at my house, I paid $20,000 for my 16 panels, and the solar roof was going to come to about $70,000. So it was quite a bit more. Now, granted, it would be in addition to a new roof and all those other things. I still think I would come out ahead financially across a 25-year time span, but I wouldn't come out nearly ahead, nearly as far ahead as I will just with regular panels. So I like it. I want to see the price come down a little bit more, but I'm excited that they're actually doing it. All right, next. This is the craziest story I have heard in a long time, and I am so in love with it. This makes me, I don't even know how to feel about this. So I first saw this on Robert Llewellyn's show, Fully Charged, which is an excellent show, by the way. If you guys haven't seen it, you really need to go check his show out, It's funny, I met someone at VidCon, which is a YouTube conference, mentioned something about Robert Llewellyn because he's from the UK, and she said, "Oh, the guy from Red Dwarf?" And I'm like, what's that? So apparently Robert has, he's a legit actor and has a great show and history here. So it was really interesting to learn that, he's turned his attention to his web series, which is called Fully Charged, and is a big fan of this as well. So I learned about it on his show. I definitely recommend you go watch that. And this is E-Dumper, which I'm not sure I like the name, but okay. And I'll kind of zoom into it, and I'll give you a couple bits about it. It has a just hold on for this. It has a 700 kilowatt hour battery pack. 700. Okay. It is 45 tons empty, plus has 65 tons of loading capacity. Now, the E-Dumper here, it's slated to work for about 10 years. And I'll read this to you, and I'll mispronounce some of the names, so I apologize in advance. But I'll read you kind of the statement from the company. It says, 10 hard years of toil are in store for the electrically powered Komatsu HD 6057. Also known as E-Dumper. It is expected to transport material down from a mountain ridge and into a valley 20 times a day. More precisely, from a quarry on the slopes of Cheserol to Clements Viger, SA, I don't know where that is, cement works near Beale. The electric drive carries key advantages to these journeys, and this is the thing that EV owners will know, but this is especially interesting. Instead of heating up the brakes during the descent, the gigantic electric engine, I love that, gigantic electric engine, acts like a generator recharging the battery pack. So the empty truck then uses this energy to travel back up the hill. If all goes as planned, the electric dumper will even harvest more electricity while traveling downhill than it needs for the ascent. Instead of consuming fossil fuels, it would then feed surplus electricity into the grid. I can't even... okay, simple terms. It goes up the mountain. They load it up with tons and tons of rocks. Now it's heavier than it was when it went up. It goes back down the mountain. As it goes back down, it uses regenerative braking to generate more electricity than it took to go back up the mountain. So 20 times a day, it's going to be generating more electricity than it previously did. Now, there is a similar approach to generating thermal energy, or I think that's right, geothermal, where you essentially pump water like up into a hill, and then that water comes down a different path that has these turbines that it turns, and it's not perfect. It doesn't generate more than it uses, but it's the same kind of idea where just the act of it coming down generates more electricity. So then they're going to plug it into the grid and actually give power back to the grid. So, wow. Read this article. Check this out. The link is in the description already. I was just thrilled, and I couldn't not share this. And I apologize if you guys have already seen it on Robert's show, but it was just too good to not share. All right, now let's switch back over and let's head to the Q&A portion. I'm going to fire that up. And again, if you are watching on YouTube or elsewhere, to be able to ask questions, you need to join the Crowdcast, which means you need to be on our email list or follow me on Twitter to get the invite. So there you have it. Now let's go and start with some questions, and I'll take a drink as I read through it. First question, do you think Tesla will... let me start answering. Do you think Tesla will start producing wireless charging pads in their cars in the future? So I'm not sure if you're talking about the car itself charging wirelessly or charging your phone. I don't know if... yeah, maybe in the S and X, they'll add the ones in the car to charge your phone or other devices. But I wouldn't be surprised if folks like the guys at Evie Match don't start making third-party ones. I saw the OC detailing guys take apart the charge port area on the Model 3, and with that they were able to showed where the cords were. I could easily see you being able to build something that fits there that is supports wireless charging. So I don't know if they're going to do it, but somebody will be able to for sure. Thanks for the question. All right, Jeremy Harris. Hi, Ben. As you know, Tesla claims... Oh, let me click start answering. I'm so bad at this. All right, there we go. Jeremy Harris asks, hi, Ben. As you know, Tesla's claims that the hardware suite on current Tesla vehicles will allow level 5 autonomy. Do you think their claims that all they need to do is upgrade the software ring true? Most analysts are pointing out that without 3D modeling, cameras can be easily fooled in varying light conditions, and forward-looking radar will not be enough to compensate. Is it reasonable for full autonomy option to be offered now with an unlock once software is available? So let me think about this. So okay, cameras are going to get better. Yes, we'll have new, better ways of doing this in the future. That's an absolute truth. Is the tech that's in them now possible? They're stating it, which means that they are like legally obligated for that to be true. Otherwise, you could sue them for false advertising. So, there's that kind of incentive for them to do it. So, I'm leaning towards yes. Basically, are cameras good enough with radar? I did an interview of a PhD of computer vision. His name is Satya Malik, and if you haven't seen that video, you should go check it out, where he kind of broke it down for me. Really, all the computer needs is training data, and it's getting that already. And so I do think it's possible, not only because of, they said it is, and, there'd be financial consequences otherwise, but because of my chat with him, and he helped me really understand this. Now, there are situations in which it won't be perfect. So level 5 autonomy, now people, the hype is insane right now. People think it'll be here tomorrow. I think true level 5 autonomy is maybe 10, 12 years out, honestly. To really, like, I don't have a steering wheel, I get in the back seat and I fall asleep, kind of a thing. I think that's still a long ways away. But I think we're going to see progress towards that. And so, for example, in the interview, Satya had this idea of, just like you have a speed limit on a road, which is sort of a certification that you can travel at that speed on that road. We may and will likely see sort of autonomous certifications of roads. So maybe the I-5 in San Diego is falling apart, and so it's not good enough. In fact, the friends I have here that have Teslas with autopilot say that it often gets confused with the lanes and kind of freaks out, and it's not the best. So I think what we'll see probably sooner than later are roads that are certified level 5 safe. But true level 5, like I click a button, it comes, picks me up, and then it goes from there. I still think it's quite a ways out. I do think it's possible, but the fact of the matter is we just need a ton of training data. And one of the examples me and Satya talked about specifically was a flood, or so if you're driving and you see water, people are notoriously bad at this. They drive into a puddle or into like a wash or a ditch that, that their car gets completely covered and they get stranded and stuff. So people are bad at this already. That might be a situation where it is really hard for the car to tell the difference because it hadn't seen that exact thing before, and so it would have to extrapolate, and just it's going to be hard. There's going to be a ton of data that's needed. I do think it's possible though, but I think the real, like, completely autonomous is quite a ways away. Thanks for the question. Next, Bob asks, how long before Model 3 delivery will I be to expect to choose my color, accessories, etc.? Well, Elon said it, 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know when your reservation was, or what part of the country you live in, or the world for that matter, or if you're a Tesla owner. So if you those things all impact it. The earliest ones, according to Elon's tweet, is 6 to 8 weeks. May come sooner. Elon's typically kind of over promises, so it may be towards the end of the year, which probably wouldn't be a bad thing in terms of the tax credit and all that. I know people would be frustrated, but yeah. So I look towards December, maybe. Yeah. Thanks, Bob. Okay. Bill asks, do you think that the second motor will be an installable option later for the first batches of single motor Model 3s? No, I do not. It's a totally different kind of setup. No, I don't think so. I'm going to go with no. And a good example, you can't do it with an S or an X, that I've seen and I've asked. So yeah, I don't think so. If you want all-wheel drive, I would wait and get all-wheel drive. Personally, I don't see the value in it, just because of where I live. It doesn't get cold. It'd be nice to have extra traction, potentially faster, blah, blah, blah. But things are, those are ancillary. So yeah, there you go. Gary in New York. Hey, Gary, I was just in New York. I was just in Brooklyn, actually, last week. So thanks for joining us. He asks, or you ask, a big difference between Tesla and established vehicle manufacturers is profitability. As Tesla owners and enthusiasts, we should be concerned about Tesla's business plan. Tesla's fading uniqueness may not attract buyers in sufficient numbers, and investors looking for long-term value and lower risk may turn elsewhere. Have you any insight to Tesla's road to profitability? Well, I actually don't. I disagree. I don't think profitability is a big thing. I think, for example, Amazon is still not profitable, right? But they make gazillions of dollars. Why? Well, because Amazon is in a growth phase, and they're constantly growing into new markets. Tesla's in the same thing. I think maybe 15 years from now, we could probably look at Tesla and say, hey, maybe now it's time to become profitable. But really, profitability, as terms of a company, is much more I would say old school at this point. Every company and all the friends I have that have done startups and stuff, it's all about growth. That's all investors want is growth. Look at Uber, for example, right? Some insane valuation, still not making any money. But the difference is that they're investing all of the money back into it. So profitability is something that I would argue is for much older, more established companies. So for example, GM. If GM wasn't profitable, I would say there's a problem, right? They've been around long enough. They should have figured it out. They should be able to remain profitable. But there's not really an incentive in our economy to be profitable. It just doesn't make sense. So it makes a lot more sense to take that money and reinvest it into growing your company. And so I'm not worried about it at all. The thing that may make sense is to look at the unit economics. So if you look at for every Model S, what's the profitability ratio? And for every Model X, for every Model 3, etc. And as far as I'm aware, those are pretty good. I think they're in the 20 to 30% range, which is crazy high for the auto industry. So yeah, I think on a per unit level, from what I understand, they are really profitable. But as a company, it doesn't matter. In fact, I would be worried if they were showing profits right now, because that would mean that they're not growing, that they're not really focused on growth, which is where they need to be. I mean, they still are basically a nascent auto manufacturer. Yeah. So there you go. I guess that's my perspective. I hope that didn't come across too negative. It's just, I hear that a lot. And for me, profitability is not something that's even a concern. So yeah, there you go. Thanks. Wayne asks, hi Ben, will you be customizing your Model 3, possibly tinting your windows or getting paint protection? If so, what would the average cost of these customizations? I'll definitely get tint. I don't know what that costs. Geez, I haven't done that in a long time. Maybe a couple $100. And then paint protection, I'm not really sure about that whole thing. I may look into getting a wrap, which I know can run thousands of dollars. And then I know people do this Opticoat thing, which helps. I'm not really that concerned about it. Honestly, I consider it a very fairly affordable car. If I were buying a P100D, I might be a little bit more sensitive about it. But with the Model 3, I'm not too worried. I am hoping to put on some cool rims, because the Aero rims are horrible looking. And then so what I want to do, I want to put the 21-inch arachnids on it. We'll see if they fit. Definitely going to try to talk the guys at Tesla to doing that for me. But if that doesn't work, I'll put those on the S, and those are coming through the referral program. Again, thank you everyone for the support. So I'll put those on the S, which I believe they're designed for. And then from there, I'll put my 19-inch turbines from my S on the 3, which I do know fit. There have been photos of that configuration. So probably not a whole lot of customization for me. But of course, once I get my 3, which, I mean, who knows now when that'll happen, I'll be sharing it on my YouTube channel. So thanks for the question. All right, Somi asks, is there a reason why Tesla doesn't offer front-wheel drive as an option? Wouldn't this be a cheaper solution for cold weather driving than all-wheel drive? That is interesting. I assume it has to do with the design of the battery pack. But yeah, you think that you could just kind of switch it around. Maybe it's not that simple. I'm sure it's not that simple. So yeah, that's a good question. I wonder if anyone, probably somebody on YouTube has answered this question, but I've not. And so yeah, I appreciate the question. And if you find an answer, please let me know. I'd love to know more. All right, we got 5 more questions. Todd asks, I'm interested to know what you think about the new Apple Watch 3 with an LTE connection of Bluetooth. Will Tesla build an app that will fit on the watch? And what will allow the Model 3 to open drive with a watch rather than the phone? Oh, that's interesting. There are many times, like the gym, when I don't want to carry my phone. I usually leave it inside the car. This would be very convenient. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess why couldn't you? Yeah, I suppose you could. Yeah, that all makes sense. Whether or not Tesla makes the app would be a question. As much as they do on the software side, and as smart and good as everything is, I mean, they're in kind of production hell right now. So I don't know how much of these things are really in the works. But there may be some other companies that could do this. Maybe this is an opportunity to build some more apps on top of the Tesla API. Definitely going to stay tuned though, and I appreciate the question, Todd. Thanks. Mel, how are you, sir? When I purchased my first hybrid in 2004 Prius, it was rumored that the selling price was less than the estimated $50,000 that it cost to build, and that Toyota did this to encourage people to switch from ICE vehicles. Do you think that Tesla does the same thing? And yes, I'm happy to hear that you're doing well with your Model S75. So is the idea that they're basically artificially lowering the price? I don't think so. And that's because, as I mentioned earlier, the per unit economics that they've reported out there, and I forget where those come from, but you see them kind of all over the place on Bloomberg and that. So yeah, I mean, it would be really hard if they were essentially losing money on every car. Now the Model 3 in the beginning, we're probably going to be losing money quite a bit, but over time that's gonna get better. So yeah, hopefully that fixes it. And yeah, I guess I'm gonna go with no. I don't think they're doing that. Thanks for the question though. Thanks for joining me yet again. Okay. Will asks, how will the launch of the Model Y impact the already slow start of the Model 3? The Model Y I think is still a few years out. They haven't even really unveiled anything. I think there's just the teaser image right now. So honestly, to make it work, I think they need a new plant. And so, yeah, I think we're 5 years from actually seeing the Model Y being delivered, and it'll likely be now. I did see a note or a headline pop up that Tesla's looking to expand at the Fremont factory, which may be possible, or in Fremont. Or I'm sorry, I think in Fremont. So, anyways, so that may be possible, but I think we're at least 5 years out from the Model Y actually being delivered to anybody. So, I think by then it'll be a pretty different scenario. Or hopefully, I mean, they really have to do something because the Fremont plant is just, even as Elon has said, busting at the seams. So they need to figure something out. Matt B, all we see is your webcam. Are you showing the other content? Yeah. So it's on YouTube, but you weren't seeing it earlier. Oh, I apologize for that. Yeah, so you have to go watch the replay on YouTube. I apologize. I did not do my screen share. Thanks for calling me out. This is a challenge. Last question. Do you think Tesla may take something out of the Model 3 to produce cars faster? I don't think they need to. I will say that the Model Y is rumored to have these, what are they called? Flex circuits, I think, where you can kind of mold some of the pieces to fit together, and so that way there's less wiring involved. So yeah, I think that may be coming. I don't know if they'll put that in the 3, but I think right now it's just a matter of getting all the machines and everything and all the final checks. I mean, they're over-promising here. So, all right, I appreciate the questions, everyone. Yes, sorry I didn't share my screen there. All the links to all those things are in the description on YouTube. I think I have to add 1 or 2 more. But I really appreciate you guys joining me. As I mentioned before, if you want to join the conversation here, go to Teslanomics.co, sign up for the newsletter, and then you will get an invite so you can actually join the conversation here. I appreciate your time today, everyone. I wish you guys a great week. Stay tuned for some really interesting, some new exciting stuff on Wednesday and Friday, where I'm talking about driving efficiency as well as apps being built on the Tesla platform. So until then, just remember, when you free the data, your mind will follow. Thanks for watching, guys.